This episode is sponsored by Supreme of the UK. Click the link in the description and support the podcast. Quote CFR at the checkout and receive 10% discount on your order.
I remember when I first started this rap, my best friend was telling folk I'm whack behind my back. Now look where I'm at. Same goals, new friends, and a different view of what it means to win or lose. I'm still fighting for a few more steps towards success. People smiling all up in my face with hate on their breath. I don't stress it, blessed be the name of the lame who hate on me. I hope one day you see we're the same from head to feet, and we can really build and let each other know just how we really feel, and come up with some answers to the questions that have been plaguing us since day one. Like, why can't I like them? Because their skin's a different shade from my own. Why do we treat little girls with love until they grow? Then it's money over hoes. I know that I'm not a saint, but I can't participate in that hate, knowing it's the reason some of my people ain't here today. My little brother took one to the gut, and my uncle took one to the dome for 28 bucks. You can't tell me that the price of life is cheaper than a phone bill. If I can't tell you face to face, I hope this song will convince you we should really build and let each other know just how we really feel, and come up with some answers to the questions that have been plaguing us since day one. Like, why do I have to pay to live on the planet I came from? And why is love so natural? Where did hate originate, and who defines what's factual? Why do we assimilate destruction like it's casual? We don't differentiate propaganda from actual understanding, and that's why we can't coexist. All of our issues come from us trying to shape the world into our fit. I know it's this because comparison is where it all begins. In convictions we see difference, but our premises are twin, and that's where we should really build and let each other know just how we really feel, and come up with some answers to the questions that have been plaguing us since day one. Like, how are we all different when we live under the same sun?
CFR Network, good day, good night all. Welcome back to the broadcast. Thank yourself, firstly, for tuning in, and most definitely for surviving another day. Special guest, going global. Josh, welcome to the broadcast. How art thou?
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. I'm really, really good. I'm feeling good at the minute. I'm really enjoying myself.
Excellent. And well, of course you must be as well, because you're not in England, so you're going to have better weather than we currently have, even though I will say the last few days we have had a little bit of sun and stuff, obviously mixed in with the rain, so we're kind of getting there. Sir.
So I forget what time of year it is, you know. I've been on the road for a while, so I'm forgetting what the weather's like back in the UK. I pay very little attention to what's going on at home at the minute, so.
And sometimes just that is the best thing to do. It's just
it.
Live in the moment, plan for the future, and you know, when you get back home, then you can start to think, oh, this has happened. Oh, this change has taken place. Maybe, you know. Yeah. So firstly, thank you very much for carving out some time in your busy schedule. Your works are tremendous. I stumbled across your work not too long ago, to be fair, and I will say, and not just because you're on the broadcast, I tend to home in and enjoy the content of more genuine people, kind of thing, who aren't just, hey guys, this is what I've eaten today, look at this pizza. Not, I want someone to really, have a walk around, talk to the locals, have an experience, So I thank you for doing what you're doing and exposing people to other, number one, places, cultures, ideologies, and just making people think. Because this is what it's all about, where some people are stuck in in a little town or a little city. They've never been on a plane before, and all they watch is movies or television. And then people like yourself go out and actually make connections with people and have real life conversations. So, and that in turns, what it does, it breaks barriers down and then lets people know there is a different option. There are many different types of people across the world.
Yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate that. That was almost too kind. That's exactly that's what I'm exactly aiming for, to be honest. I am from one of them small towns, and like my cousins and my family, and most of my family never gets out. Actually, my siblings themselves, we all sort of spread our wings and doing our own things all over the place now. But yeah, I'm from one of them towns, so I know exactly what that is. And it's, each to their own. People live their lives their own ways. Thankfully, I don't have the commitments back home, so I can come out and do this sort of thing. But yeah, like I say, the type of content that I'm trying to do is hopefully, I'm just getting started. Do you know what I mean? So it's nice that you're seeing, and that's what I'm trying to do, is sort of show the alternatives of what there is around the world, because I'm truly fascinated in how we organise ourselves, as society, as family, and seeing the different perspectives of, well, how do they do it here and how do they do it here, and what are some good parts that I like about it. So yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
You're most welcome. And this is one of the main purposes, is to explore the human experience. And within doing that, as you say, you can visit these various countries, cultures, and I like that. I'm gonna adopt maybe not the full element of that custom or ritual, but I'm gonna take a piece of that, because it fits in with my ethos and it fits in with what my potential family structure is. So, and this is all, like, life is for learning, right?
Exactly, mate, exactly, yeah. And that's it, like, these, for me personally, like, I like making the videos, and obviously I want people to watch them, otherwise I wouldn't be making them. But for me personally, every time I'm out with a camera, and like you say, I'm trying to do things which are a little bit different. I'm actually going out and learning. Like, I could probably go out and do travel videos every day or whatever else, but for me, like, I'm trying to tell a story, or I'm trying to learn how to tell a story, should I say? Because right now I'm still working it out. So I'm trying to learn how to tell a story, learn about the people, and personally grow from whatever it is I'm doing in that day, or when I've been focused on a particular topic. So that's what the journey for myself personally is about. So yeah, that's what I'm aiming for.
Yes, growth and development. And as you say, it is a learning stage, and you will stumble a little bit. You might look back and review content, as many people do. I mean, when you like 2012, 11, if you heard me, doing, I guess it was called internet radio back then, I you'd recognize the voice, but I wasn't as skilled as I am now. And it's all about, as you say, the experience and growth and developing and, changing angles at times, because nothing in life is subject to change. I mean, everything in life is subject to change. So we as individuals, and as the human, frail human creatures that we are, we like routine. We don't necessarily like the change, but the change is inevitable. So what's great with yourselves and content creators who are like, before I even say that statement, like, I couldn't fathom going like multiple different countries on my Todd, meeting new people, checking into hotels and stuff. That's nothing, but just being 24 hours a day for months on end, just on your own, in essence, that's very commendable. Very commendable.
Yeah, it does get tiring. I can see why people like it. It's good. Obviously, I've been on the road now for just over a year and a half, and it does get tiring. When I was in Jamaica, I've really started to feel, right, I need a little rest here. Do you know what I mean? It started to wear me down a bit. So I had to take about a month of just not doing anything, just not travelling, just focusing on other work stuff, and then I feel refreshed now. Back in the Philippines, I've just had my best mate's just got married, so I've had a couple of weeks with spending time with him and the family, and so now I'm ready to rock and roll. And obviously this is why I went into Tondo the other day. I'm like feeling really up for it now. This is like my only focus now.
Excellent, excellent, and I guess it's going to be quite different for us in the United Kingdom versus like the American travelers, because they seem to get a lot of perks flying with various airlines and stuff. Is that something that you can take advantage of?
Honestly, I don't really plan in advance very often, so it's difficult. And I fly with different airlines all the time. I'm literally just looking for the cheapest flights I can find. Yeah, so it's not something I've actually looked into. I actually met an American guy who makes content around travel hacks. I should probably ask him to get a few good deals, to be honest. But yeah, no, that's not something I've ever really focused on. Unfortunately.
Well, but you know, I've brought it to your attention now, so you might think, actually,
yeah,
you know,
I see stuff every day. I'm just maybe thinking, why am I not asking him for good ideas about how I can do this cheaper or whatnot? But yeah, I'll get on to him tomorrow.
Yeah, but I guess at the same time, you're focused more on the experience rather than the background kind of thing, and it'll all come. It will come because you'll see things, you'll watch other content, and you'll say, actually, I like that. I like the way you did that kind of thing.
Well, that's literally where I'm at the minute. So, like, I haven't even monetized the channel at the minute because I realised, like, I know personally, for a lot of it, the style, for example, or the way I'm setting up the structure of the show right now, I'm still working it out how I want to do it. And if I'm honest, I'm looking at other people the content that I admire, people like Kurt Kars and Bold and Bankrupt, you know, and I'm basically essentially using their style as I learn my own. And now I think the last video, the Rasta one, and this one with Tondo, these are now I'm starting to show my own side. I'm not ripping anyone off now. This is what not that I was ripping anyone off, but I was looking at their content and thinking, right, can I do that? Because I'm not really being comfortable in front of the camera until really recently. So now I'm like, all right, now I can get comfortable. I'm quite happy to just, say what I've got to say and just stand by it. So this has come with time, and now this is my main focus. It's I no other distractions. You know what I mean? So now I can really be like, all right, I'm doing my own thing now. This is me. I'm not looking for anyone else's audience. I'm looking for mine.
Yes. And you mentioned Kurt. The first time I stumbled across that guy, I was thinking, what on earth? The people are telling you not to go down there, Kurt. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And he made it successfully. I think there was about 3 or 4 people. I think, where was he? He was in South America somewhere. I can't even remember the country, but there was about 3 or 4 people on this hill on the way down to this little center place, and they were all like, "No, don't go down there." And it's like, I'm fine. And I was actually quite scared for him. I'm thinking, well, if the locals are telling me that, at some point you might want to be a bit kind of cautious. But it's all worked out. out.
Yeah, man, he's absolutely smashing it. And to be honest, he makes some great stuff. So fair play to him.
Definitely. And you know what? I guess as well, it's energy. I know you know all about what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's if you have a certain energy about you and you have good intentions, even the bad people will they will feel that and will I'll leave this guy. We'll move on to other kind of things. So yeah, I get it. I do get it, because you look at the comments as well, like, you shouldn't be going down there. I live in that town and I don't go down there, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So going back to your time in Jamaica, and that was it a 3-hour hike that you did to get up to that plantation?
Which video is that from Jamaica? I done a plantation video in Guyana. Let me just.
No, it was known. Well, I'm calling it a plantation. It was a farmer. It was farming.
Oh, the Rasta farmer. Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Yes. Now we get. Yeah. So it was about an hour and a half up the hill. But yeah, it was. Do you know what? That was actually my best day in Jamaica. The whole time I was there, that was a really, really cool really cool day. But yeah, it was about an hour and a half up the hill. But yeah, it wasn't an easy workout, and one of the guys that took me over was way into his 60s.
Exactly.
And I was struggling to keep up with him. At some points, I was really struggling to keep up with him. I was trying not to show it too much on camera, obviously, but I was lagging behind. I couldn't keep going. So, but yeah, some fit guys out there, man. And that was a cool experience. I really enjoyed that one.
It came across on the camera and the conversation, the detail and level of conversation. Not many people, like even some British-born Caribbeans, depending on their connection to their heritage, they wouldn't understand. They wouldn't know some of the stuff that guy was talking about.
Yeah, I really, really loved speaking to them guys actually, because at first I wasn't sure if they were going to open up so much. But as we got into the day and we got to know each other a little bit more, and I'd met Mr. Sativa a couple of times beforehand, so I'd started to get to know him a little bit down at the beach. So once we got into the day, and I think we could realise I wasn't just there to like mess around, and I was like really intrigued by the Rastafarianism. They opened up, and then, and we managed to have the conversations that we ended up having. So yeah, that was it was really nice.
Yeah, he was deep. It's a pity that you couldn't have really had that experience and then like maybe went back to one of their houses and really sat down for maybe an hour with them and just let them talk about the Ayabingi and the Federation and the different sections of Rastafarianism and that would have been really cool. But there's nothing. All we got is time on our hands, Josh.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, But yeah, they were great guys. I really enjoyed it a lot. Because Jamaica, the thing is, what I found about Jamaica, it was difficult to get people to open up like very quickly into a conversation. Yeah. People are a bit standoffish. At least that's how I felt. People were a bit standoffish. They weren't quite willing to open up straight away, and it took a little bit of time to build a relationship. And building a relationship out there is much different to anywhere else I'd been in the past, so it took me a little bit of a time to get into it, and so when I got that one at the end of that was the end of my trip, it was literally the last day or second last day. I was like, this is it. I finally feel like I've worked it out a little bit. So, but yeah, unfortunately it was right at the end of the trip, but it is what it is. It's good learning experience, very good learning experience.
And you've built a trustfully a lasting bond, so when you do return, you can hail him up and say, "Hey, I'm back."
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah.
We can do a part 2, and they can take you some next places. And you see, this is another thing. I didn't know those things you were calling apples. I've never even heard of them. Jamaican apple.
Yeah, do you know what? They're delicious. I think I said they taste like a cherry on the video, but actually they're somewhere between a cherry and a pear. But yeah, really good.
So is the texture more like a pear and then the taste like a cherry?
Yeah, that's how it is to me. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it was really good. The fruit out there in Jamaica, honestly, the food. Well, it comes to the fruit and stuff. I can't think of anywhere else that'd be nicer, to be honest. It's the food, everything. Do you know what I mean? Like it says so in that video. Walking around and literally the guy's pointing in a 2-yard space. Yeah. He's picking 4 or 5 different types of food. I'm looking, where's he getting this from? Yeah.
And you'd walk past it and just think it's just like part of the fauna kind of thing. You wouldn't think it's nothing. Yeah, man. It's surprising. It's surprising that that such a rich and abundant country is so much of still a developing country. Outside of the toll roads and the Chinese investments and stuff, it just seems, and this goes across the whole of the Caribbean, but Jamaica specifically, because it's like it has obviously the roots with reggae, etc. Peter Tosh and the Wailers, Bob. And
it's literally all the superstars that come out of there, and it's not just the musicians, it's the sports stars. So it's like, there's so much talent that comes out of there. But yeah, it really is a shame, Jamaica, to be honest, because like the abundance of food, it's a beautiful part of the world. It has all the potential to be this amazing place, but for some reason, there's all the violence and stuff that goes on there, and the difficulties. Like there are lots of people struggling out there to make a living, and it's like it could be You know, literally could be paradise, but
Yes.
for one reason or another, it's not.
It's there's so many. It's not just one thing. It's not just one thing. There's not just you could do. If you could wave a magic wand, I mean, I think a easy way to get developing countries, as they're known as now, out of the quagmire that they're in, is just wipe the debts. Let's just wipe the debts. Give them the ability to control their own destiny, and let's see how they get on for 50 years. you know.
Well, yeah. So this is a thing that. So I actually are quite intrigued about the Empire and how people are responding to this. You know, especially with the Queen dying last year.
Yeah.
So was it last year? Or was it the beginning of this? I can't remember. But
the time is moving so quickly.
I'm clueless, but but just seeing that change, and obviously, so me personally, I'm not a royalist. I think it's a mental institution to have people born into divine right to rule. I think it's a wild idea.
Indeed.
But also, I do see that on the other side of it. Okay, so it's checks and balances for the government. So okay, there is another division of power. How little or how closely aligned their needs and wants are is another discussion. But on paper, you know, it's an extra division of power somehow. But you know, it's like in the UK, we're sort of told the royal family is all ceremonial. It's not really important. But it didn't feel like that when I was in Jamaica. So talking to people, the general feeling I got was that they're not independent.
No.
They don't feel independent. You know, they still say, oh, the Queen has to sign off or the King has to sign off, and every law that gets passed, if we pass a law in the UK, then they try to pass it in Jamaica. And I was like, oh, well, that's fair enough. Like at home, most people don't understand that there's these countries that still feel part of the empire.
Yes.
And then, like, almost against their will. It wasn't a nice, oh yeah, it's a good thing, we should be all part of this. There were some people actually that really supported it, and I had some conversations where I really learned about some, what would you say? What's the word I would go for? But some things that I'd learned or heard about when I was younger, and I just sort of dismissed them. Things like generational pain, the self-hatred within black people. I'd never experienced that personally, do you know what I mean? But then to see it in Jamaica, and I had some personal incidences of it. For example, I was talking to some guy at a bus stop, and he was telling me about how, basically he was talking about how Jamaica could be what it isn't. It could be this amazing place, blah blah blah. And then he says to me, we need the white man to tell us how to do things. And I like took a step back, and you know, he's between two old girls, and I was thinking one of them's going to say something like, no, like, we don't need this, like, sort of thing. And they both agreed with him, and I sort of stood back and I thought, all right, okay. I almost felt a little bit uncomfortable, like that's the way that they were thinking in terms of like, so the race is so prominent within the ideas, and I don't know how. But yeah, it really knocked me aback a bit. And then there was another instance. I was on the beach and I was talking to some lads. I went down to do a video in Morant Bay, but in the end it rained all day, so I couldn't get anything done. But I met a few young lads on the beach when I was starting up, and they were like 15, 16, and they were all really dark lads. But one of them was a bit darker than the other three, and he'd made a mistake in the conversation. So he'd said something that I'd already answered, and then he said it wrong. Because they were asking me questions, you know, just intrigued with what I was doing there. And one of the other lads like tapped him. He said, "He's just dumb. Look at the colour of his skin."
Oh gosh.
Do you know what I mean? And I thought, oh wow, I've never seen this in person. Like I've heard about it and thought that's not really good, but to see it in person, I was like, oh, and it knocked me back a little bit. So yeah, I did have a couple of experiences out there where I thought, oh, this is. Made me reevaluate how I actually thought about some of these ideas that I would usually just dismiss. So yeah.
And you're lucky just to have that. Well, lucky in the sense of being able to physically quantify it, because as you say, you may hear about generational curses and, you know, self-hatred, etc. But to see it in multiple guises, and some people who are black, who are Caribbean, they don't see it. They hear about it, but they don't see it. It's like it's going to take a lot of time, and unfortunately, I'm shocked that you said it was the 15-year-olds. I would have thought it was more of the older generation who had that mindset.
Yeah, so yeah, like I say, because it was the kids as well. Like I really like, oh, that's. I think it knocked me a little bit more because it was the kids, and then there was other things. There was other things when people were talking about like mental slavery. I'd never really understood this idea before, and then. But then I would see how the authorities would talk to people, and when I say authorities, I mean if you're in a shop and someone's wearing a uniform for the shop and they tell someone what to do, that person will do it sheepishly. Yes. Do you know what I mean? So, and I was like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that. I know, especially when a country with like a history of fighting for liberation, and you know, even through all the music, it's about freedom of expression and thought. Yes. And then a shopkeeper, to be able to tell someone to do something, like a grown man, and then that grown man's going to be sheepishly go and do it. I thought, wow, this is really. Yeah. It was really interesting to see. I don't know if it's just from what I've been reading and seeing, and that's influenced how I perceived the situations that I was in, or if I actually perceived them in the way that.
No, you did. It's the latter. It's the latter, unfortunately. It's authority figures, unfortunately. It's authority figures, and people have been mentally conditioned into, look, you know, someone's got a uniform on, you're lower. Especially, I mean, did you experience it? Like, I mean, I guess like if you went to a bank, you would see majority of the people who would be like redskin, as they call them over there, right?
Do you know what? I don't really remember going into a bank, but I did have I was in a route taxi and we got stopped and searched, and the way the police spoke, it was like and I had it a couple of times actually throughout the Caribbean, in Guyana, Trinidad, and then in Jamaica. I was in vehicles that got all stopped in all three countries, and the way the police speak to the public, it's like they're naughty children, no matter what's going on. Do you know, it's like they're speaking to naughty children, and it was almost confrontational from the beginning, and I really found it. Oh, I mean, the police have got to do their job, and like I'm not from there. I don't know what the circumstances are day to day for a policeman over there, but it did feel like it's like they were asking for trouble to try and get people riled up, so which I thought was really strange and unusual. Actually made me appreciate the police back home a little bit more. Funny enough,
it does when you see some of these interactions, locals and police. It's like, why? Like, is there something personal going on? Why they're acting this way? It's strange. We've you know, as a collective, we definitely need to try and change that mindset. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. Yeah. And then that breeds. Well, we don't want to talk to the police. We don't want to have anything to do with the police. If something happens, we'll try and deal with it ourselves, and we'll just, because the police deal with us this way. It's a separation. Just go on, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say, and then once you've created that space, that's when you've got the guys that can come in and take advantage of it, and then, you know, eventually along down the road, it's not the police running their place, it's somewhere, it's the people that you don't really necessarily want them to be running the place.
Totally. You know, cup, excuse me, overflowing. Trustfully, we will see a change. Maybe not in our lifetime, but you know, there as you've experienced, there's so many good people. There's so many good people across this plane of existence. It's just that there's a few people that kind of mess it up for the for the good guys.
Yeah, it's definitely the majority of the. Yeah, it's definitely the minority, which is making things difficult for a lot of people, especially in Jamaica. It really felt like that.
What was your experience like in Trinidad?
Do you know what, actually? So I went to Jamaica with the whole idea of the one love, everyone really open and friendly. This is the idea that I got from pop culture and and actually the Jamaicans that I know back home. So, and it wasn't really like that. And when I was in Trinidad and Tobago, I had that one love, everyone welcome, really open, super friendly. So I was expecting that in Jamaica as well. But actually, what I was expecting from Jamaica, I got in Trinidad and Tobago. But I got so much love for that place. I'd love to go back if I get the opportunity. I'm hopefully going to go back. I was meant to go back at the end of my Jamaica trip because Moses was one of the guys in the video. Me and him were set up. We were going to do some other videos, and I contacted some other people who's really involved in the gang culture, and we were going to go do a documentary. But unfortunately, just financially, it wasn't sensible for me at the time, so I had to come away. But this is something that I do want to do in the future because I really fell in love with Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes. The Caribbean is this littered. It's a jewel. The Caribbean scene is just a jewel of islands, and as you've experienced, it can be so different.
Yeah, like the weird thing about Trinidad and Jamaica. So the differences, a lot of the differences I found, Trinidad, it feels like an old English town. Even the way people talk to each other, and in the city itself, in the capital, do you know it looks like an English town. It reminds me of somewhere like Worcester in the UK. You know, like a nice southern town with a nice cathedral, a nice church.
Yeah.
All the streets are clean, everything like that. But then Jamaica, a lot of the culture, it felt more Americanized.
Yes.
I couldn't really feel that traditional Britishness. Obviously, there's like the school uniforms and things like this, but the actual culture itself, it really felt Americanized, where things are about how things could look. Everything's almost on a superficial level. So that was the main differences I found. Is that Jamaica was a bit more Americanized than Trinidad and Tobago. They still felt like almost the old English towns.
Okay. Would you say that there's more like KFCs and McDonald's in Jamaica versus
far and away.
Yeah,
definitely, 100%. I mean, it's also difficult to compare because of the size. I mean, Jamaica only has like an extra, I think there's about 1 million people, but there's really condensed into Kingston. I spent most of my time in Kingston in Jamaica.
Okay.
Whereas when you're in like Trinidad, there's only 2 million people in the whole country. I think the capital was 500,000.
Yeah.
So it's walking around the street, I'm like, where is it? You know, it just feels like there's no one there. So they're two very, very different places. I mean, if they weren't in the same part of the world, they'd be very difficult to compare to each other.
Yeah, totally. And sticking with the Caribbean, what other islands have you got on the checklist?
So I was in Tobago, but I was only there for a day, unfortunately, because that was one of the most beautiful places. Probably the most beautiful part of the world I've ever been. Do you know what I mean? I'm in the Philippines now, and I've just been island hopping. I said to my friend, I actually think Tobago is like the travel between Trinidad and Tobago, because it's like an archipelago of little islands.
Yes.
Really living on them. Man, what?
I know.
It's incredible. It's absolutely stunning. So there, and then I was in English Guyana as well. I mean, I don't know if you really call that Caribbean, but they definitely.
Well, no, they are.
Caribbean.
They are, Josh. I mean, I know because that's mainland. That's mainland South America, isn't it? No, that's Caribbean. Their culture is Caribbean, so it's not a South American culture. South American, so it's Afro-Caribbean. Yes.
Yeah, but Guyana was really cool as well. But I only spent a week there, and I got distracted in Brazil, and should have had more time in Guyana, but I was distracted in Brazil. I'll say no more about that. So I didn't get to spend the time in Guyana that I wanted to.
Easily done from what I've seen and what I've heard.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, that's a good point as well. I mean, what would be, currency-wise, what would they use in English Guyana? Would it be in Euro or East Caribbean?
What were they using in Guyana now? It was his own currency. I can't remember what it was. I think it was Guyanese dollar.
Okay.
I think it's a Guyanese dollar. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it was a Guyanese dollar that they were using.
Interesting. Because you've got the Jamaican dollar, Ghanaian dollar, and then you've got the Barbadian dollar, and then everything else is like East Caribbean, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the ones I went to all had their own currency. So I never seen like the East Caribbean currencies. I've just seen dollars. So, well, the country and the dollar. Yeah.
Yes. St. Lucia might be an interesting destination to go to as well. Again, I would say topography-wise, it's quite similar to Jamaica, but culture-wise, it's very, very totally different. French influence.
It's very strange how the Caribbean countries are so different. You know, very similar histories in lots of them. Even modern history is quite similar. Once they've got their independence, the divisions split between left and right, like almost purposely. The CIA has had its fingers involved in all of it. So yeah, it's interesting to see how different they all are, even though they have so many commonalities.
You've clearly done your research, Josh. I like to hear
it. It's interesting to see who's meddling in different places.
Totally. And you just see the influence. You think, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Enough said. Yeah. So we've been in the present tense. Let's kick Marty and Doc out of the DeLorean and let's go back in time.
Cool.
What part of the UK were you? Did you come up and learn your trade?
So I'm originally from Teesside, but my dad was military. I was in the military, so I never actually really grew up there. I spent most of my time in Germany. So where home is a bit of a difficult question to ask. I spent most of my life in a small town in Germany, which no longer exists, and the people who were there as a community were always moving and always changing. So this is where you were talking about change before. I can't remember if before we started recording. That's always been a constant in my life. So being on the road, it doesn't feel particularly unusual to me. I'm always meeting new people. It's sort of always been the way of my life has been. But yeah, so originally from Teesside, spent most of my time in Germany. When I eventually moved, I left home at 17. I went with my granddad back in Teesside. I was there for a few months. I think it was about 9 months. Then I joined the military myself, and I got posted back to where I'd just come from. I was trying to leave. So I was back in a circle. But no, I wouldn't change it, To see it as a kid and then to see it as a squaddy, two different experiences, and I wouldn't change it. It's all of that has led to where my life is now, and I feel like I'm living a good life. So I wouldn't change any of it.
Totally. So I take it you learnt German then?
No, actually I never. So this is one of my life shames. I always say if I have one regret, it's not learning German. But we lived in a small community. Maybe I don't know the actual numbers, but maybe 5,000 to 10,000 people, and it's all English. Do you know what I mean? And you're in the camp, and where we actually grew up as well. There's a lot of it during the 90s and then the early O's. We're still in the wake of the Second World War, and where we were was just up the road from a concentration camp. And I almost feel bad in saying it because I've met some amazing people over there too, but it wasn't like as though you were particularly welcomed by the locals. So, there was always conflicts between, even when we would go to the football, I remember going to the football and you knew every week there was going to be the parents fighting on the side, and there was always animosity. England, but they say it with a tone where you're like, there's still stuff going on here, we're still not quite over that. And that was what, 60 years at that time, 60 years before, but it was people's grandparents, and it's just, it must be difficult. I don't know if we've got any military bases in the UK where they're foreign, so obviously the US, they're everywhere, but do you know what I mean? It must be difficult to have foreign troops in your territory, if that makes sense. So looking at it from that perspective, I almost can understand why people would have a little bit of animosity. But yeah, it wasn't obviously all like that, but it was certainly, I remember going
to
nightclubs. Yeah, definitely there was a tone. I remember trying to go to nightclubs and they say no English. Just clear as day, no English. That's it. All right, okay. You know what I mean? Or go to a swimming pool sometimes. We're not having English in today. All right.
Today? What on earth?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, we're talking like maybe like 15 years ago now. So obviously, I think a lot of it has changed, but 15, 20 years ago. But yeah, there's definitely times like that.
So yeah, clearly all of that experiences has molded and shaped you to be the man that you are today.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's how we all are, isn't it? We're all molded by our experiences.
Totally. So I take it was it you was inspired by your father to then go and join the military?
Actually, when I was younger, I used to go mad saying I hated it. I was never going to join and all this. And then I was at home. I was 2008, so it was to the recession and everything. It was
Yes.
impossible to get a job. I didn't know anyone, and I don't sound like where I'm from. So I felt like a bit of an outsider at home,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously couldn't find a job for months, and I was not really sure who I was. And I thought, you know what, what's going to make a man out of me? I'll go join the military. So that's what I did. I went and joined up, and then I'd done that for just under 8 years, and then it got to like interestingly, it was the Brexit pretty much made me decide that I had had enough.
Okay.
Because I started to pay more. I was really not really. I really wasn't aware about the world. I didn't really care. I wasn't intrigued. I just wanted, the girls, the drinking, whatever. I wasn't bothered.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Brexit came around, and for some reason, it seems like the whole world started to get political around that time. With Trump in the US and Brexit at
Yes.
home and whatever else. But it started flicking my interest, and then I would see because I would have been a Leave man. And to see the way the media spoke about people who would have voted Leave, and knowing it wasn't true about myself and most of the people who I knew who wanted to vote Leave,
Yeah.
I've been thinking, oh, what else have I been lied to about? Because if they're lying to me right now, and I'm
Yeah.
existing knowing that this is a lie, well, what else is not true? So I then started, getting more intrigued and getting down rabbit holes, and then you end up in
Yes.
conspiracies, and then what's not true and what is true, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, I just don't believe anything anymore. So I just try
Yeah.
not to pay attention.
Yes, I totally listen. I think it was early 2004 or five. I was at that point where I was like, I've been down all these rabbit holes. I've, debunked all of these theories, and it's like, oh my God, it's like there's nothing left. I mean, and that's when I got to the point where it was like, I've got to concentrate on myself now. Like, I know there's some
Yeah.
nefarious, wicked people on this plane of existence doing all kind of things. I can't control that. What I can control is me and my immediate family and my associates and my, circle. And from there, trust me, that's where that's where the real change happens.
Yeah, 100%. Like, do you know what? Actually, I started to learn that in 2016, but I didn't really solidify really until like last year. So I've changed a lot since I was a young lad. Then I think people who met me in the army back then and they knew me now. I'm not 100% different. I still go back to how I was a little bit, but
Of course.
But now I'm a different person. I know that for sure. But yeah, it's during the whole COVID times, for example, I would sit at the TV. I lost my mind. I was sitting at the TV, going mad at the TV for days and days on end, and every day, what are they saying this and this is saying that, and instead of thinking, well, what can I actually do about it? I'm just sitting and complaining in my house. What am I doing about it? If I think someone's lying to me, barefaced lies, which I think now we're starting. I don't know how you feel about that situation, but I think now we're starting to see that a lot of it was either lied or manipulated or changed or feeding one narrative. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I was going mad about it back then, but what was I doing about it? I wasn't doing anything about it. So then now I feel like I'm in a position where I can go and just tell the truth.
Yeah.
What I mean? I've got a camera. I've got my phone. If I wanted to use my phone, I'd do a camera and then go tell a story and go ask people what they actually think, rather than complaining that the media's lying to me. Why don't I just go and do it and get the media and be the media, not to lie? And so that's essentially where I'm at now. So yeah, like say, working on yourself, and that's how you make the changes.
I think many people are having that sort of semi-awakening, and they're at various stages because everyone's going to be at different stages. Some people they're still in, preschool. Some people are in nursery. Some people are in primary school, secondary school,
Mhm.
college, university, and then we're doing doctorates and masters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's all stages, and we gotta recognize that some people still think that everything that comes out of that little glowing block box is 100% truth.
yeah, yeah, and
What, Josh?
it's scary, man.
It really is because they'll say, Josh, Noble, why would they lie to us? Like,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
they're experts. They've got no reason to lie to us.
experts, eh? No, yeah. There's certainly
Yes,
something. I don't know if that's what I'd call them, but yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Really, I did find that period quite difficult. You know, I mean, I went into the COVID period having just read like Adolf Hitler's autobiography. I just finished Ordinary Men, which is about a reservist battalion in Germany who turned into executioners during the war.
Mm.
The Gulag Archipelago, you know, so I was already, my mind was not set up to be getting told I have to stay in my house by the government for the next however long. So that did not help at all. But yeah, no, I think I probably would have come to the same conclusions regardless of what I'd just been previously reading. But yeah,
But it's good that we've still got people who are using both hemispheres of their brain, the left and the right brain, and they're actually
yeah,
asking questions. Because all I ever ask of people, like, I'll present some information sometimes. I always say, never, never believe, always study to show thyself approved. Anything you hear,
hmm
you should always verify it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
In the
I mean,
olden days,
where do you go to verify it? It was another question these days. You know what I mean? It's like we're
well,
getting battered at all
I
fronts, aren't we? You know,
know,
you got these
I
fact
know.
checkers which are funded by the same people who told you the
Yes,
original story, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah,
yes.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, you'll be happy to know. Well, I'll have to at this point. I'll have to chop this interview into half, and I will be putting the second half not on YouTube because since we've spoken about certain things, they will
Mm,
either put that fact checker on there, or they'll even say medical
yeah.
misinformation.
Which is crazy because what have we actually spoke about, really? Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? We've alluded to something, but we've not actually said anything out loud. But yeah, I fully get you, man. Yeah.
This is the dangers and this is the wonders of it. I mean, my ultimate goal is to explore the human experience and let people have an opportunity to wake out of their slumber and just to think for yourself again. That's all I want people to do is
Mm,
just think, ask some questions, and
yeah.
in that, trustfully, they'll get to the point where they're on the level of I can't control the world, but what I can control is myself. And then it's the
Yeah.
self-reflection. It's the let me look into my health. Let me look into my spiritual wellness. Let me look into the emotional wellness. Let me invest into my children and my wife or my husband. And let me cherish the moment rather than always thinking about these little trinkets and stuff.
Yeah. Do you know what? You can't fault people for just accepting what they're told on TV as well. I was having this conversation with someone earlier on today. Do you know, we all have things going on in our lives. Do you know, if your mum's got cancer and someone's just died, or you're going through a breakup, so you
Yeah,
don't want to question everything that's on the TV. You just want to
yeah,
accept what's being told. You don't want to be stressed out
yeah,
about the big picture stuff, which you can't control. So you just accept
yeah.
it. Okay, this is what's happening. All right, that's what they've told me. They're like you say, they're the experts, and I've got this going on in my life. And even if I could do anything about it, I'm too busy with this anyway. I've got to feed the
Yes.
kids. I've got to do
Yeah,
this. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's it's no wonder there's so many people that like how you said in a slumber or just
yeah.
going through their days. I mean, life's hard. You said it in the beginning. Just uh, just getting through the day. My mate said something to me once. He said, "We don't give ourselves enough credit for just getting through the day. Like
Mm,
people don't do that." And I was like, "Yeah, do you know what? When people are having a hard time, it is hard to get through the day sometimes. So yeah,
yeah,
to worry about these big picture issues,
yeah.
nah, you haven't got time. A lot of people haven't got time.
Totally. And that's where I utilize the phrase comfortably numb. because it
Mm.
yields so much responsibility to say, look, maybe I'm not going to do as much research as Josh has done, but I want to do something to confirm that these people are telling me the truth or not. And at that point, I then can take control of my own life and destiny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's also, but I think it was also for one of the things I've definitely learned whilst I've started doing this stuff, particularly outside, because originally my channel started with doing psychedelics, but since I started doing the human experience, the human interactions, I've learned that I really have no idea what's going on. And you just don't. The more people you talk to, the less you understand. You realize you understand.
Yeah.
So even like we were talking about earlier on, when we were talking about the mental slavery thing, do you know, before I would have probably just dismissed that. I remember I remember either reading or listening to some of Akala's work around the empire, and
Okay. Yes.
I remember thinking, what's this guy talking about? Some of his points, you know, a lot of it, obviously, this guy's
Yeah.
he's done more research than I have. He's
Hmm.
lived that thing. And I
Hmm.
remember thinking, what's this all about here? He's talking nonsense sort of thing. And actually, as I've grown and then learned and had these experiences myself, I'm like, actually, this he knew. He knew way more than I did, and I just missed it because of my experiences. Um, so yeah, yes. You know nothing. It's essentially what I
Mm.
tell myself now. It's like whenever I feel really dug in on a position, it's actually I might not know that.
I know, I know. I mean, but with like positions, we have like again going back to the earlys. I was an avid UFOologist. I believed in
Oh
all of that
wow.
kind of stuff. Anything's possible kind of thing. But as you grow, as you have information, your stance on things change. I do think there
Hmm.
are interesting things out there, but what I what I've come to realize now, and just looking at basic language, language evolves over time, doesn't it? Along
Yeah.
with
Well, look at
cultures.
English in the last 20 years. It's
Exactly.
almost a different language.
Totally, especially with
Yeah.
the youngsters. Like you have a
Yeah.
conversation with the youngsters, they'll be like, "Huh? Why are you using
And
them
that
big words?"
Yeah, and I don't even know. I don't know if it's always changed this quickly or if we're just more aware of it now because of technology.
Hmm, I think a bit of both. I think the technology
Yeah.
has increased it because it's the dumbing down of the English language now. So people don't even write full words now. It's this crazy text talk.
Yeah. It does feel like it's being dumbed down, doesn't it? Like I watched some videos from kids being interviewed in the 60s and I'm like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
know if I can hold a conversation with these guys. And
Yeah.
they're 10 and 11 years old and they're like, oh man.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
so
it really I have done a whole podcast on, the regression of humanity because it's, what we're doing now. Just think,
but
just
that's an optimistic theme you're going with there.
but well, I had to just literally highlight what's glaring obvious. I mean, right now,
Yeah,
what we're doing would be impossible in 1996.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Unless you was the CEO of a company and I was a CEO of a company and we had the infrastructure and technology and also the funds to be able to have a video call like this.
Yeah, it's a completely different place.
Totally different. And then the value we put on knowledge now, like we now walk around with pocket computers.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's
But
so easy to get lazy.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
it's so we have access to literally libraries where before just I'd say
Yeah,
to have a look, check out Fritz Springmeier and the Illuminati bloodlines. Go to your local, library and get that out, and you'll be like, okay, let me write that down.
yeah,
And you get
yeah.
on the
And now I go to
bus.
TikTok. I get to TikTok, and I'm like, oh, I've done my research.
That's it.
See, that's
That's
what I
it.
mean. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
But
man.
this is the beauty of humanity. This is the beauty of just the world that we're so different. We're not gonna have people who, because what would a utopia look like? If you really think about it, I mean, our
It's impossible.
utopia. would be quite similar, I would say, potentially. But somebody else's utopia, they would want to murder and cut the heads off people every day. That would be their
People like
utopia.
different things, man. Yeah, people like
Exactly.
different things. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds crazy, but some people are into that. You
Mm.
know? Like, you only have to look at the big gangsters. I think it was Al Chapo who was talking about running the cartel, and it was someone asked, I think it was El Chapo, was it one of the big ones in South America, and they're basically talking about the violence that's involved in the business, because that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's an
Yeah.
industry.
Yeah.
It's part and parcel. That's what it is.
Mm.
There's
Yeah.
no qualms about it. That's just what it is. So it doesn't matter. So for like a utopia for that guy and a utopia for me, our reference points are completely different. So that this idea of you can have the perfect world and no one has to lose out, for me, I don't believe that's possible. But yeah, it's
When
obviously
you
the aspirations for a lot of people.
Yes, but when you but this is the point. It's nice to say, and yeah, this democracy, this democracy, and demon
Yeah,
rule
yeah.
and all this kind of stuff, or communism, fascism. It doesn't work. We just need like a utopian society. Maybe if we mixed all of them with a little bit of Karl Marx and a little bit of this, and it would work, and that would be a true utopia. But as we've just slightly unpacked, the only way for the world, this plane of existence, to have a utopia of sorts is if everybody was robots. If nobody had, if you was
I think we're going that
programs,
way, aren't we?
transhumanism, well, again,
Yeah.
that's another podcast in itself, sir. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. But that would be, yeah. It's an interesting plan and a theory, and we've seen the movies. But
It feels like we're
trustfully,
going there.
yeah,
I mean, you
we
just
did.
said it. We've got the pocket computer. We've got the pocket computer. It's essentially part of us.
Yes, it's an extension of us.
Mm.
Our bodies are now molding to it. The neck posturing has now changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man, the eyesight. People have multiple people now. Yeah, see, we notice how many people are wearing glasses now.
Sure, I haven't paid attention, but I'll start looking. I don't.
You,
It's hard to remember because everyone's been in screens pretty much since I've been. I'm like the last. I think I'm the very last few years where people still played outside, like
so
religiously. I think
you're
I'm.
mid 80s, baby.
No, I'm 91.
Oh, okay, so you're really on the cusp and flipping out.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's so for me. Everyone's pretty much like the Xbox and the 360 sort of thing was coming out when I was in my mid-teens, I think, or early teens. So yeah, so the screens thing and then the phone, the iPhone, I think I was just about to leave school.
Shit.
So I remember having the flip phones, so the iPhone wasn't really a big thing at the time. Yeah.
You're showing your age now. Flip phones,
Yeah, that's it, isn't
Samsung.
it, eh?
Wow, it's so interesting when we start to flick back into our childhood and stuff, and you think to yourself, so much things have changed. Like I never
Oh,
thought, for instance, as a child, I half expected at this point, this juncture in life, and to be fair, earlier than this, I thought we'd have flying cars by now, Jetsons, Back to the
well, I
Future.
don't. Yeah. Well, I don't know if we're too far away from it. I really don't. We've got the driverless cars on the road in some places in the US, and I think they're trialing them out in Dubai this month.
Mm-hmm.
Is it this month? I think they're starting this month. And like I was in Dubai recently, and I'm looking at going past a big advertisement for a hospital, and I'll just get a picture of it, and when I'm next there, and I'll send a picture to you.
Yeah.
But there's a big billboard. I don't know if you've seen it. It's about a hospital, and in the middle you've got a nurse, and in the middle is a robot. Looks like something out of Terminator.
Oh yes, no, I've heard about
You've
this.
seen it, yeah?
Yes, yes.
So like we're not far away. Do you know what I mean? We're getting there slowly. I keep saying to people, we live in the future that people imagined when we were younger.
Yeah,
we're almost there.
Definitely. I mean, if we go back to the early Star Treks, what did what did they have? They had like little tablets and mobile phones in their hands using, didn't they?
Yeah. So we're there, aren't we? Really? And if Elon gets his way and we're all in the Mars within the decade, do you know what I mean?
God. Okay.
We are the Jetsons.
Yeah, fingers and toes crossed. So what's your idea on outer planetary exploration? Do you really think that humanity or mankind can leave this plane of existence and land on the moon and go to Mars and all that kind of stuff?
I really don't know, you know. I know we've talked about conspiracies before, and I was like, I've definitely questioned whether we still, if it's flat or not at some point. I was like, there's so much information now. I'm like, what is true, what isn't? So yeah, I do. I'll leave that to the experts to see if they can do that.
Air
Yeah,
quotes. Yes, indeed.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So let's get back into the presents and get back to your channel of sorts. So we've alluded to obviously the growth and your sort of idea in regards to the direction you want to take it. Like kind of without giving too much away, kind of give us a roadmap. I mean, what can we see coming up?
A bit more of the same from that Rasta video and from this Tondo video, which was hopefully be out on Sunday. It's taken a lot. I had like 5 hours of footage, so I'm just working my way through it, trying to get that down to 50 minutes.
Yeah,
So more of the same with this stuff, really quite raw.
yeah,
Long term for me, I want to get into documentary making. So like the YouTube is a good. It's amazing because I can just take the camera and I can do it. And I can do learn all the skills myself. I don't have to go back to school.
yeah,
So I could do that. But long term, really, I want to do real documentaries. You know, diving into a subject and taking months of research on it, not just a few days before or a week before. Just really getting
yeah.
into it, getting the footage, and getting both sides, because it's very difficult if I'm on a day.
Yes.
You know, to Valley Gardens, for example, I went and tried to speak to the locals about what had happened in the past. But if I was doing a documentary about that, I would have liked to spoke to some of the police that were involved. If I could have got hold of some of the police, or do you know what I mean? So it's to see the both sides. It's very difficult to do
Yes.
that on a 1 day shoot where you just sort of right. I'm in the moment. This is it. It has to happen right now. Otherwise, it's not a video. So yeah. So that's sort of questions. Right now, I'm looking for. I've been up to now in the year. I think I've done maybe 8 or 9 this year, and you know we're almost halfway through. So I've got a lot to do this back end of the year. But I want to really focus more on the British Empire and the legacy of that again. When I can get into some countries of that, and just alternative ways of living. So I have an idea now. I'm going into the north of the Philippines starting on Sunday. I'm going to do a sort of 10-day trip up there. I'm hoping to find the rice fields, the rice terraces there, and apparently that's dying out. So people are leaving. They're going to the city. They're not really doing the rice in the ancient ways anymore. So I want to go and sort of live a day with these guys, and maybe what's it like for them? What do they think of the world? You know, do they believe in God, and how do they have their families, and what do they think is how to live a happy life and a good life? Yes. So that's the sort of stuff I'm aiming at going forward in the immediate future.
Educational, inspirational, peeling back layers.
Yeah, so like I really enjoyed teaching. I enjoyed teaching when I was in the military, and I'm really loving learning how to tell a story. This is what I'm at the minute. So like I know I'm not where I'm going to be. So I watch my stuff back and I'm like, oh, I'm only 20 videos in or whatever I am, and I'm like, oh, I could have done that better. And I'm only a year. It's only a year since I started doing it. So I'm like, everything's just each video is about just working, getting a little bit better at one aspect. You know, 1 week I'll be focusing on right, what do I want here? So I want even just as simple as I want the thumbnail to be clicked on. I want the click-through rate to be more than last week. So what is it that I'm looking for? And then I do that, and then it's okay. Well, I want my intro to be a better intro than the ones before, and you know, it's just trying to get. You can feel it in yourself when this is going to be a better intro. This is a better intro than I've done before. But it's nice to have the analytics. Like, I don't want to get too bogged down in the analytics, because if I like what I'm doing, then other people are going to like it. Yeah, exactly. But right now, the analytics are they're a good tool. You say, oh, right, okay, well, people weren't really interested in that. Or maybe I haven't got the right audience yet for that conversation. Maybe I could shift the focus, and it helps me. And then that actually, when I can get more focused, then you can dive deeper into the conversations that you're actually really interested in too, as well. So which are going to open people's eyes. So this is like the near future. I'm hoping to go down south in the next couple of weeks to a place called Marawi, because a few years ago ISIS were down there in the
Wow.
Philippines. Yeah, so there was like a conflict there, and people say it's like the Battle of Fallujah, comparable to that in Iraq, where the city just got absolutely flattened. So I'm going to go down there. There's still elements of extremist units in and around the city there, and people I mentioned to people that I'm going down there. Oh, it's dangerous down there. It's the extremists are down there. So I'm really
Okay.
interested to see this, and
Yeah.
well, hopefully I don't stumble across the wrong ones if I do find them. But yeah, it's so that's the sort of content I'm going at. Almost like somewhere between gonzo journalism,
Yeah.
gonzo documentary making, somewhere between
Indeed.
the middle of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Find that line. I mean, you've definitely got niches because there's not many people who are doing and taking the time to not just go to the dangerous areas kind of thing, but to tell a story, to
Mm.
explain, what's happened, the history of it kind of thing, and then get some input from the locals kind of thing. I truly enjoy that kind of content, not the clickbait ones. I'm in the world's most dangerous place and paying people to drive you. That's not fun to me. That's not educational to me.
Yeah.
That to me, that's exploitative. You're
Yeah.
exploiting the woes of those people of that country for your financial gain.
Yeah, so this is something that come up a lot of one of my Jamaica videos. So the original one at the Tavelli Gardens, there was a part in that which got cut up, and it was shared on lots of channels. It was shared on like Facebooks and different Instagrams. We're doing about 500,000 subs, 500,000 followers on these pages. So there was a lot of comments on them, and a lot of it was talking about like, why do these Americans? So they hadn't watched the video firstly, because the clip that they cut 2 seconds before it, I said I was English, so they hadn't seen the video. But a lot of the conversation was about how, oh, this colonizer's come in here, he's exploiting the locals. But really, it's like, well, if you watch the content itself, it's not about exploitation.
Yeah.
Firstly, it's if I am privileged, and I'm privileged enough to go to this, because a lot of people, even on the one in Trinidad, although that's got like mostly positive, I did have some negative interactions with some people over it, because they're saying, no, you wouldn't have got that reaction if you were black and you'd gone into that area. You wouldn't have been treated the same way, as though it's my fault. And I was like, so I understand why people can be a bit conflicted about it, but at the same time, it's like, okay, if I do have this privilege where I can go into an area which people can't usually go to, surely I should use it. If I'm going to be doing this sort of thing, surely I should use it to my advantage and the advantage of the people. Like, I'm not saying I'm doing God's work or anything like that, but if I've got this opportunity and I can go in and I can talk to people and have the conversation which raises awareness or highlights something that people didn't know about, then why not use that to my best advantage? But yeah, it's like you say, there is a fine line between this. I've seen a lot of comments about poverty porn on other people who go into the poorer areas, and this is what made me think about the Tondo stuff, because I seen a guy who walked around and he walked around and he interacted with the locals. And actually, when I was there, I was speaking to them, and they were saying that they get a lot of people come through in video, but no one stops and speaks and says hello and whatever else. So this is the next level. This is okay. This is right. Understanding how do they function, how do they think and see the world, and how do they actually live? Do you know, how do they shower? Like this is I spent the other day. So where do they sleep? Oh, they're sleeping on the floor on this wooden sheet. They don't have mattresses, because where were they going to put it? Because the rooms in the house is too small to have a mattress and also be able to function as a room. What are they eating day to day? And actually, I don't know if you've seen him, Best Food Review Show. He's really good.
No, I haven't seen him yet.
He's outstanding. I really highly recommend, if you're into food stuff, he's really good. He goes across all the cultures. He can make people laugh in any culture. It doesn't really matter what it is. But the way he approaches eating people's food, he does it in a way that, for example, this pag, I could have been like pulling my nose up and do you know what I mean? I could be doing all that, but really, this is how people eat every single day. So it's not really for me to go there and start like retching and whatever else. It's how am I good? How do people eat this? Why do they like it? If it's as it's going to be in the video. They say they think it's dirty, but it's necessary. Otherwise, they don't eat.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
getting into that mindset of okay, this is what I have to do. This is what I have to do to feed my kids and feed myself. Then this is what I've got to do. And it's trying to get into that mindset rather than to make a joke out of it. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a thing out here called balot, where it's like a chicken egg, but it's the little chick is almost fully developed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was a bizarre thing that I had, but that's just a typical Filipino a dish. So that was a bit strange, but that to me was really unusual. But even then, I'm not like, I mean, I took the chick out, let's be honest, a dramatic effect. So I'm shaking the chick around, so just so you can see the chick is there, and I was genuinely like, oh my God, I'm really nervous about eating this. This is like one of the weirdest things I've ever done. But it's also trying to be sensitive about, this is a cultural thing.
Indeed.
Do you know what I mean? You don't have to accept all cultures as being right and one culture is as good as the other or whatever else. You don't have to. I don't feel like that's the way you have to be. But at the same time, it's about being respectful about where you are and who you're talking to.
Yes.
And he does this guy, this Best Food Review Show. He does an outstanding job of doing that. So
I think sorry to interrupt you, Jess. I think I've just done a quick search, and is it the American guy?
Yeah, he's American. Wears like a red bandana.
Yeah, I've seen him.
Yeah.
I've seen him.
Yeah.
That's very synchronistic because on the weekend, usually synchronistically is a lot quicker, but on the weekend, I watched him in some part of Africa drinking. He was with like possibly the Masai Mara or someone.
I think it is the Masai, yeah.
And he was drinking the blood and the milk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, straight from the neck. So they shoot it in the neck and he just drinks it straight out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can see in his face he's not enjoying it, but he's trying not to. He really swallows it down. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that, like, when it comes to foods and stuff like that, that's the approach that I want to take. Obviously, they're still gonna have fun and enjoy it. And if it's weird, it's weird. Do you know what I mean? Like eating the chick, which is basically just a chicken fetus. It was really strange, but yeah.
You've clearly got a stronger intestinal fortitude than myself, because I don't think I could have done that, sir.
They've not had any solid movement since I got back. Let's just put it that
way. Wow. Yeah, it's good, man. As long as you keep yourself safe and as long as you're having fun, that is the most important thing. And you're building these memories, man. You're building these memories and these experiences, and you're creating these bonds. That's one of the most important things. That's one of the most important things you can be doing.
That is the most important thing, mate. To be honest, like obviously, I was filming for the 24 hours. And obviously, you select what you're filming. When you're there for 24 hours, you can't film the whole thing. And and actually, that if you are filming the whole thing, that creates a barrier between you and the people that you're talking to. So you have to turn the camera off if you really want to get to know them. And so, on a night, I'm having heart-to-heart conversations. The camera's long off, and I'm hearing parts of their lives, and I'm like, wow. That's pain. This is the story. They're telling me a story, and I'm like, I've got family members just exactly like that. But you're here in the Philippines living in this slum. I don't even like using the word slum, but it is a slum. Do you know what I mean? There's no two ways about it. But when you're talking about people's homes, you almost feel difficult. I even find it difficult to say poor people when they're like, these are very, very poor. They literally eat chicken out of a bin. So it's still difficult to say poor people, because it's like, how was that interpreted to them? Because I know they're going to watch this stuff that I'm doing, and I don't want it to be offensive to them, even if it's how I feel. Tricky. I don't want it to be offensive. So it's very difficult trying to find that line. But at the same time, now it's just sort of, I just got to back myself, and then if anything comes of it, I just got to say, all right, okay, I'll hold my hands up in the future. This is not what I'll approach it in the future. Do you know what I mean? So this is.
But that also highlights the fact, like there's poverty in the UK, but when you compare it to poverty in the Philippines, in the Caribbean, there's levels of poverty. There are true levels. Yeah,
there certainly is. And actually, it's funny you said that about the Caribbean, because being in the Philippines made me look at Ian and think, wow, there's especially Jamaica, because no one should be hungry in Jamaica. There's that much food, and it's like, right, okay. It gave me more of an appreciation for how poor some places are compared to the Caribbean, and it's like, and I obviously I was only visiting. I was there for a split second, essentially. I was in Jamaica for 5 weeks, and it's, I personally, if I'm truly honest, I didn't feel like the people appreciated how good they had it in a lot of aspects. So, and then coming into Manila and seeing this level of poverty, it's just next level.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm hopefully people, if anyone's watched, not many people are watching the Jamaica videos. That's fair enough. I think eventually people might, but if people see what's Jamaica and then they see the Philippines and they think, oh, actually, do you know what? Actually, we do have it pretty good. Yeah. Maybe that's yeah. Do you know what I mean? The whole time I was here, in all of these places, the Caribbean, the same. I'm like overwhelmed by how lucky I've been, like, or we are in the West to grow up in the way that we did. You know, just normal infrastructure. If something's broke, you bring someone up, it gets fixed. Do you know what I mean? Like, just to have that, it's not the same in a lot of places. Or you've got the money spare to do that. You know what I mean? It's not.
It really makes you appreciate what you've got.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I will not take up any more of your time, sir. Two last questions as we wind down. Firstly, have you had fun?
Yeah, perfect, mate. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Very last one for you, Senor. Please tell us who you are, but do not tell us your name.
Oh, so I've got to be a character, have I?
So in essence, describe yourself.
All right, okay. I am working it out, I would say. I'm still working it out.
Yeah. More than a blank canvas, but you are a blank canvas.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, definitely. Yeah, I'm still working it out. It goes back to that knowing nothing thing. It's, you know what I mean? I'm trying not to be too set in my ways on anything, on any subject. I'm trying to be open, but also there's the downside of that is you don't have this, or I am this and this is what I stand for. Do you know what I mean? You don't stand for nothing. You can sort of thing. But yeah, I'm still working it out, I would say. Might be a bit of a cop-out answer, but that's where I'm at.
No. It makes sense. It totally makes sense. And you've clarified and given more detail to that. So no, not a problem at all. You've provided a very edutaining conversation, sir. Thank you again for your time. Please throw out all your social media, so I'll make sure I put the links below in the description.
Yeah, it's literally YouTube is going global, and same as Instagram, going global, and they're pretty much all I'm using at the moment. I'm going to hopefully be spreading it onto Facebook because of this part of the world and other parts of the world. That's the main one, so I'll be putting it into Facebook and that eventually too. But yeah,
perfect. And I would suggest the old TikTok with your content. You have to get yourself on TikTok.
I know. Yeah, I think once I've got to about 50 videos, I'm going to start chopping them up and putting shorts out there and stuff. So then at least I'll have some content, and the videos might be good then as well. So hopefully, we'll get there.
Indeed. So guys, make sure you go over, like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Obviously, consume the content. It's very interesting, and there's a lot more to come. Trustfully you enjoyed, and we will be back. Trustfully, maybe in a year or so, we'll have another catch up, and we'll see what part of the world Josh is in, and what mindset he has.
So thank you very much, mate. I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for reaching out. It's been good.
Definitely.